Belize Watch. Knowledge of the past, impacting the present, building the future.
Jump and shout all over the nation. We're breaking out with a new creation.
Marie Aleman is renowned in the Toledo district, particularly in her home village of Big Falls. Teacher Marie, as she is affectionately known after spending many years in the teaching profession, sat down with our Belize Watch team to talk about her life. She has been recognized nationally for the work she continues to do in her community. We will get the opportunity to find out more about her after we hear from our partners, the Barry and Shell Belize Limited.
Shell V Power with 3 times more cleaning and friction reducing molecules. Go well. Go Shell.
We are the Barry, offering you great products, good service, and of course, the lowest prices in the entire country. Visit us in Belize City, Belmopan, San Ignacio Cayo, Orange, and now in San Pedro, La Isla Bonita. The Barry. Get more? Pay less.
It don't matter what part of the jewel you come from. You da you and me da me. But guess what? All are we the one. See what I mean?
We're at the home of Mrs. Marie Aleman, and to tell us exactly where we are. Miss Marie, thank you for having me in your home. Let me tell you that first and foremost.
You're most welcome, sir.
All right.
I'm happy to have you guys here.
I usually ask Paul to describe exactly where I am because Paul puts all these shows together for us, right?
Yes.
So we can come and meet interesting people like yourself. So let's ask Paul to describe exactly where we are at and what we want to talk about.
Chief, we had such a lovely ride out Punta Gorda, passing through the village of Cattle Landing, and then Forest Home, and then Elridgeville, and Jacinthaville, then the dump area, and eventually to the home of Miss Marie Aleman here in Big Falls. So we traveled about 14 and a half miles on the PG San Antonio Road, and we cut off left on the Southern Highway for about 3 miles. So we're actually about 18 miles out Punta Gorda this time. And I take this opportunity one time to say that those who are viewing or listening, stay tuned because we have a very interesting story on a very outstanding Belizean lady who has served her district, her community, and country well. So I'll leave it to her to say the rest.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul and Miss Marie. Thank you. We feel very much at home here with you, Miss Marie. You make us feel very much at home. So thank you for receiving us in your home and agreeing to talk to us and to tell us who exactly you are and what you have done. You know, I like to start these shows from the beginning, right? From when you're born, Miss Marie. Let's start there. That's a good place to start, right?
Sure.
All right.
My grandfather, Gumercindo Cardenas, used to work in San Pedro, Colombia, where my dad was the man in charge for the expat chicle work. And so then that's how my dad met my mom's family. And my grandfather said, well, my daughter can wash for you, and you can get meals there when you get your days off. And so he took advantage of that. And at age 17, my mom got pregnant for me.
Okay.
And when she was 3 months pregnant, my dad disappeared. The chicle work shut down. And so he went on to work on an oil tanker in Venezuela.
We went very far.
Very far. And
So mom had to raise you on her own.
yes, washing clothes for people and things like that. So then in 1954, she went to Belize City to look for a job, as a maid.
How old were you then when she went to look for the city?
6.
You were 6 years old.
Yes. And then she left me with my grandmother, which is by the forest station down the road. And that was my grandmother's property where Mr. Young has that sawmill. And she left me with my grandmother, and she used to make coconut oil to sell.
Your grandmother?
Yes.
would do that.
And I had to go with her to search in the cocoon area for the cocoon kernels, the nuts, and then she would break them. I dig them out, and then I beat them in the wooden mortar, and she passed them on the rubbing stone and made cocoon oil to sell.
That's a lot of work.
Yes. And I went to Nazareth Primary School with the sisters. And when time came to take my primary examination, it was called then, I passed. 10 of us took it and 3 of us passed.
What was it like going to Nazareth
We
Primary
had to
School at
ride
that
a
time?
school truck.
How far?
It was from mile 11 to mile 4, 7 miles.
And the roads weren't paved like they are now. They were terrible roads. Yeah.
Yes.
Picados.
Yes. And so I went there, and when I passed, and then we took the college entrance, and I was the only one who passed both exams. And then sister said, no, Marie. St. Peter Claver College had just opened its doors.
In Punta Gorda.
See my ring?
Yes, you're a proud graduate of St. Peter Claver
1965.
College, 1965.
Yes.
Wow.
And she said, Marie, how will you go? I wish you could go to high school. I said, sister, I have nobody to pay for me. And so it happened that one day, sister, my teacher, went to Judge Vernon's store, and she heard Mr. Vernon say, there was a salesman in there, Ismail Gomez, salesman. And he said, well, Mr. Black, see you next month when you come back. And sister decided, Mr. Black. And she stayed by the door.
And she connected that your name was Black,
Marie
right?
Black.
Marie Black,
And so she spoke to him, and he agreed to pay high school for me.
Because your surname was Black.
Yes, and
That's
he-
quite coincidental.
Yes, and he said, Marie Black, that's my niece, my brother's daughter.
Oh, yeah, so you were related.
Yes. And so I went to high school for 2 years, and then he got married to a lady, Elizabeth Castillo from Belize City. Ernest Black was my uncle. He worked for Ismail Gomez.
I remember this Black very well, so you're making some connections here.
And he paid 2 years, and then I had to stop because he stopped paying for me. I owed 3 months tuition, books, and boarding. So I stayed home.
You stayed home in coming back, you came back home here.
No, this was in PG.
Okay.
And I came back to stay with my grandmother.
Okay. You're talking about St. Peter Claver College.
Yes.
For some reason, my mind went that you had gone to Belize City, but yes, you're talking St. Peter Claver
Yes,
College.
and I
Yeah.
stayed home, and my mom said she lived in Burrell Boom because she married to one of the Seguros in Burrell Boom.
Your mom
My mom, after working in Belize City as a maid, she got married to one of the Seguros.
in Boom.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
She said, sorry, I can't help you. Your stepson want nothing to do with you now. So I was like, well, sister said, well, maybe I can give you a job to teach as a pupil teacher.
I want to go back a little bit to your growing up years. You're telling me that you had to do the cocoon oil and what have you. So I want you to walk me through. You never used to play the other girls your age and that sort of thing?
There were none in the area. We were the only family living there.
So you grew up sort of alone, as a solitary
Yes.
life, basically. And so what you used to do to entertain yourself as a little girl growing up?
Just help my grandmother. Go plant rice with her. She used to take contracts, $7 an acre, and she take a whole week to plant an acre. She dig the holes, and I follow behind dropping the rice.
Okay. How long it would take for the rice to grow like that?
It starts germinating like in 3 or 4 days.
And then it's harvest? Would she harvest it too?
We did
You didn't
for
do the
some
harvesting, you just did it?
They would pay
No.
us to harvest. And then I used to come to the dump area because that's swamp. And I used to, for 5 cents a bundle, haul the rice on my shoulder. I had to stop high school for like 2 weeks to make some money so that I could
And so you
have
carry the
pocket
rice
money.
How far do you have to carry the rice on your shoulder?
Where the plantation is to the roadside so the truck can carry it to the thresher.
What would be the distance? More or less, half a mile?
No, maybe 200 or 300 yards.
Okay. But the fact is you have to put the rice on your shoulder and take it so that to where it will be picked up.
Yes.
Any experiences you can recall happening to you while you were doing that
Well,
will stick out in your mind?
One time, when I got by the roadside, and it's barefoot. 'Cause
Barefoot?
You can't buy boots. You don't have any money. And when I got to the roadside and put down my bundle and looked at my foot, there were like 3 black things sticking on my foot, and they call it sok.
Yeah, soccer, familiar, isn't it?
And I screamed, because I couldn't pull them off. If you pull them off, it bleeds.
Bleeds, yeah.
And so then my grandmother came and,
Burn them out.
yes. So that was an experience.
No, that's quite an experience. But in those rice fields, I know because of the water that is used to grow rice, you have to have water in the field. Snakes like to come around.
water
Did you experience any fright or any snake scare?
Not really. In our house, yes, because we lived in a thatch house.
And they like that too.
I remember one morning I went to take down the kneading bowl to make tortillas. And when I moved the bowl right against the wall, the snake was there. But we call him frog snake, the one that's not really dangerous.
But the dangerous snakes would
Yes,
tend to
they'll
come
be in
as
the
well.
chicken
right?
coop and like that.
Yeah. So that's quite an exciting way to grow up in all honesty.
Yes.
It gives you a whole lot of experience and
I
character.
got a whole lot.
Yeah. Now we are back to where you left school because of the lack of the financial resources, and you went back now to the farm, right?
Yes.
To where you were living in forest
In close to Laguna Road.
close to Laguna Road. Okay.
Then my mom, there was no cell phone or anything of that sort.
Of course, you didn't know those.
So my mom sent me a letter to the post office and said, why don't you come here to Boom to get a job at the sewing factory? So I went on the boat on Heron H to Belize City and then to Boom.
Yeah.
But when I got there, because there were transportation from Boom, a lot of the ladies used to work there. They told me, you're only 15. And in those days it was 21, the adult age. So they didn't give me a job.
Wow. That must have been disappointing because for folks or younger folks like our young cameraman here, to go from Punta Gorda to Belize City was quite an adventure. You had to go by sea.
By sea.
Right, Paul? You had to go by sea. There were boats, the Heronage, the Maya Prince, and the Honduran. Those are the 3 boats.
Yes.
So you went on Heronage, you said.
It was 14 hours.
Yes. 14 hours from Punta Gorda to Belize City by boat.
Overnight.
And the boat, it would be a whole overnight thing, and the boat would stop in different areas.
Yes.
Heronage would stop in Monkey River, then it would stop in Placencia, and then it makes its way Dangriga, and then it makes its way down to Belize City. So all that took about 14 hours because it would stop to load and offload and that sort of thing. So it was exciting. I guess I found. Well, I did that trip once or twice. Some years ago, and many years ago, and I found that very, very exciting. So I can just visualize what you were going through
And
there.
if you don't have the money, you can't get a bunk.
Yes.
You have to go sitting down.
Yes, yeah, you have to pay for it. They had bunk rooms
Bunk rooms with 2 beds.
with 2 beds, and if you're paid like you rightly said, you get a bunk, and if you don't, then
You sit at the back.
You sit at the back,
Yes.
and take all the licking. You used to take some licking
Yes.
sitting down up behind there, right?
Jump and shout all over the nation.
Well, I had the experience because I had to leave Punta Gorda in 1974 or 1972 to go to Belize City to study, and the only way was to get to Belize City on Heron H. And let me tell you, we had a stormy night because you must overnight, and I had to be sitting down to the back with everybody else. And let me tell you, crunch up there, rain wetting you, it's cold. When you get to Belize City next morning, you're wet up. And it was always a challenge, Chief, but that was the only way we could have done it.
Okay. So now you couldn't get the job because you were too young.
My age.
And the age of consent in those days was 21, not 18.
Yes. And so then I stayed with my mom. And one Sunday when I went to church, the priest said, Marie, I have a letter for you. And I was like, from who? But I went and I took it from the priest. And when I saw it, it had my dad's name in the upper corner. And I opened it after Mass, and it says, "Come home to PG, I've paid all your bills."
You're talking about your biological,
real dad,
your
yes,
biological
yes.
father. Okay.
And so it says, "Ask your mom to pay your boat ride, and I will give you back the money to pay her." And so I went the following week. This was April. Second term, in those days, they didn't say semester, they said term. Second term had finished, so I had missed from January to April when school closed for Easter. And so I went back to school.
So Dad came back and sent you to school.
Yes, well, he was married. He had a wife with 5 kids.
Okay.
And she didn't like me. But I had to stay with her because, you know, they say when you no get married, you have to take pa.
Okay.
And I went back to school. The principal, they were all PayPal volunteers, Americans, and said I had to make up for the term that I missed. So at night, from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, I did the missing term work. And during the day, I did third term. And at the end of, that was third farm, I completed both terms, and fortunately I passed both and went into fourth.
And what were your experiences like in fourth form now, which would have been your last year at high school?
My dad was leaving again, and I said, "I won't stay with your wife." And so he left me with Mr. Bob Pennell. And that's where I stayed for fourth farm.
Now, going to fourth form and going through and growing up the way how you're growing up, did you have any dreams, aspirations, or things that you were aspiring to? Like, okay, when I get older, this is what I want to be.
Yes, I wanted to be a teacher so that I could reach out to others who were less fortunate like I was and make a difference in their lives.
Okay, so that was the dream growing
That
up.
was my dream. That was the aim that I had, and thank God
You did it.
I did it.
Well, look, let's go step by step now. You're at fourth form. You graduated.
Yes, I graduated, and the priest and Paul can attest to it. I think you were 2 years behind me, right?
Okay, so you know Paul a long time? Yes, that's right. How did you meet Paul?
We were in high school together.
Was he a well-behaved young man, or he was younger than you, right?
Santos was ahead of me, his brother Santos, and Peter.
Did Paul behave very well, or what was he like in school?
I don't have any complaints about him. He was funny as usual.
I had an eye with her with Christian Love, Chief. Yeah, from Toledo, Christian Love.
Christian love. Okay. We leave it at that, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
Good.
so then the priest went into the fourth farm classroom asking for all those who wanted to be teachers. And I was one. And so he had us fill out a form. And thank God, I was accepted to go to the intermediate training center of the Belize Teachers College.
That's it. Belize City now.
Belize City behind Technical. I went there for 6 months.
So you went to Belize City now to study to be a teacher.
Sure. For
Teachers college, basically.
for 6 months. And I stayed with a family on Bayman Avenue because my sister was staying there to go to St. Catherine's. It's 3 of us in my family, but I'm the only black. My sister is Burgos, and my brother is Vasquez.
Okay.
So I went to stay with her, and I did my 6 months, came back in February 67, and started teaching out close to Juliancho.
That's right at the junction where
Juliancho
Juliancho High School is.
I teach there from 67 February up to June 83.
What was there? What school you said was there?
San Isidro RC School.
San Isidro RC School. Is it still there?
It wasn't a building. When they built this highway, that was the laborers' camp.
That's what I would remember.
A wooden building where the workers stayed.
Okay.
And so we used that, and it was multi-grade. I taught Infant 1, Infant 2, and Standard 1. It was only 3 of us. Plus, there were some children because it was the first time this area had a school. So I had like 13, 14-year-olds who were in Infant 1. So I had to separate them, give them Infant 1 work, but not with the 5-year-olds because, there'd be friction. Okay. So I call them special class A and special class B. So in other words, I had like 5 classes. But because I had this little training, I was able to cope with it.
So there were only 3 of you teaching
Yes.
at the school.
The principal and 2 of us.
2 of you. And you had to multitask, like you were saying, quite a lot, right?
And everybody could hear everybody else because it just had a wooden division, and then like from here to where the young man was open. And so some were behind this wall and behind this wall, but this is open. And the principal taught 4, 5, and 6.
Okay. So how many children you had going there at the time?
110.
110 children going there? Right. Wow, that's quite a lot. And now after this, now how long did you stay there?
I stayed there from 67 to 83.
That's a long time.
I became the principal from 82 to 83.
What are some of the experiences you went through, and how did you see the school grow?
Well, my worst experience was the language because they were all Kekchi. So I had to learn.
So you speak Kekchi now?
I understand. I can speak quite a bit. We did sign. I remember one day this young man said, Mues, Barshik. And I'm like, and then he's meaning, where are you going? Barshik, And so I had to cope with the situation. And some of them knew a little more. It's the older ones that found it hard to learn the English. And then those from Big Falls, a few from Big Falls, Spanish. I taught his wife in Infant 1.
Oh, yeah?
Celia.
Celia? Okay, so you were Celia's teacher.
Yes.
All right, in Infant 1. You see? It's a small world, like Abba would say.
And I was 17.
You were only 17 when you were doing all of this? Teaching
Yes.
full-time and what have you?
But then, as the years went by, they climbed upon me as well. I took first class the same 67 when I came from intermediate, and I passed it, and I got married the same year as well.
Let me hear about that part now. How you met your husband, how you got married, and how old were you?
I was 18 when I got married. And I met him because he lived in Big Falls.
Okay.
And he was working with the surveyors. And he used to pass by the school all the time. And my biggest yearning was to have a home because I didn't. I grew with my grandmother. My uncles would whip me all the time. My aunt, because they gave my grandmother a little contribution of some flour or some sugar. And I shared it, so it didn't last her very long. They thought they were entitled to punish me as well, And then when I went to live with my dad, his wife didn't like me because he sent me to high school and she thought he would never send hers.
Yeah.
And so I wanted a home of my own. And even though my mom objected, what you want to do with that bushy? Bushy, got education and all these things. And she made a big fuss. And I said, Mom, I need a home of my own. And I went to live with his parents. But eventually ended up buying this from Charles Wright. You heard about Charles Wright?
Charles Wright. Tell me who was Charles Wright?
He was a British guy who owned this, and
The property we are now on.
this one. This has hot springs at the back.
Oh, yeah?
Yes,
Hot springs.
they call it agua caliente.
Well, I like to see those hot springs, I guess, when...
Just that it's bush, See, I'm alone, and I don't. My husband died 16 years ago,
Sorry to hear that. I thought you...
and for me to manage, and he had this place big. That was the bar, pool room. I closed that, and I just keep this little section and got burglar bar, fence, everything because we're on the highway.
Yeah.
And, you know.
The pool room, I can remember passing here, but I don't think I ever stopped. I may have stopped maybe once. I'm not too sure. But when you mentioned pool room now, it rings a bell.
It was very...
Extremely popular. She didn't mention the husband's name, but it's well known, he's deceased, but everybody, he's extremely loved in this area, Mr. Peter Aleman, and the Aleman family are very prominent people in this district. That's right, Celia's cousin. So I married into that family too, Chief.
Okay,
Yeah, so, but a great family, and so she comes from the black family, but she has went into the Aleman's family, and everybody know her now, not as only teacher, Maria Aleman, but they call her teacher. That's a prominent name she has gotten earned because of her exceptional work in a teaching career.
Well, let's reflect on some of the people that prominent citizens of the area today that you may have taught while
Celia is one, and I've taught. It's so many.
So many, yeah, but maybe just a few of them. You know, Celia. Celia is the executive director of Tide, so.
Yes.
So
And I'm vice president of her board of directors.
okay, you see.
And many of the teachers who are principals, I have taught them. You have Mr. Carmelo Juarez, who lives out there. He became my principal.
Sure. And you taught him and he became a
I
principal?
taught him in standard 3.
Okay.
But he became my principal because my husband didn't want me to go and study in Belize City. If UB was down here like it is now, I probably would have gotten my master's or doctorate, but it was in Belize City. And so he refused to allow me to go. Until Minister Said Musa said, anybody who is not educated by 2000, through the door.
But you came
But
from
I
Teachers
didn't
College.
have my associate nor bachelor's.
Oh, those degrees. Okay, they're talking about those degrees.
Yeah.
All right. And so you ended up going and getting your associates. And
I went, but when I was 43. I had all my kids already.
Time and space can keep us apart right now. Unity, yes, you better know.
Teacher Marie speaks of her family, especially her children, when we come back. She also reflects on the ways traveling to the South has changed over the years. We take a break to hear a word from our partners, the Barry and Shell Belize Limited.
Shell V-Power with 3 times more cleaning and friction-reducing molecules. Go well. Go Shell.
We are the Barry, offering you great products, good service, and of course, the lowest prices in the entire country. Visit us in Belize City, Belmopan, San Ignacio Cayo, Orange, and now in San Pedro, La Isla Bonita. The Barry. Get more? Be less.
It don't matter what part of the jewel they come from. You that you and me that me. But guess what? All are we the one. See what I mean?
How many children you had?
5.
5. You want to tell us a bit about their names? And
4 girls and 1 boy.
5 children, 4 girls, 1 boy.
Yes, she's the eldest.
Uh-huh.
And then there's another one who is in Chicago, who lives in Chicago right now. And then the boy, he owns Lowen's Construction, a place that sells building supplies along the way. He and Lowen have joined. And then I have a daughter who was manager of Scotiabank in Belmopan, but this closed down, so she works with UNDP right now. So I had Renita, Rutilia, Roxana, Ravina. All of them are ours.
Wow.
And then the son, Jaime.
Why you selected R as the first name? Because I knew Renes and that started on R. So why do you select the R?
I don't know. I don't know. Then I took a stand with my husband when I heard Minister Musa say that. I said, okay, by hook or by crook, I go in, and if you don't want me back, That's it.
Ghana, Belize City, went to do your teacher's your associate's degree.
Yes. Unfortunately, I came in second out of 80. We had 2 classes, 1A and 1B, 40 in each class. And I came in second. The first person who came in first was from Corozal. And then I came in second.
So your actual experience may have influenced that,
I think so.
right? Because you when you took that exam or when you went for that degree, you had a lot of experience already behind you because
had a lot.
you were teaching you're telling me from your 17,
and I was 43.
and you're 43. So that's many years of teaching
Yes.
under your belt.
Yes. And so they sent me, the young man and myself, to North Carolina for 1 week, all expenses paid.
So the first and second, the top 2, yourself and the person that came in at the top, was sent, you said, to
North Carolina.
North Carolina. How long did you stay in North Carolina?
1 week.
What was that like?
That was great. Like I said, I stayed with doctors, and then they took us to the Mayan reservations, and showed us all the different things, how the development, and it was an experience compared to my knowledge of the Mayans here.
Okay. So the Indian reservations over there were
Yes.
different from the
Yes.
Mayan settlements here in Belize, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. Now, you came back, and you came back home. You said your husband never wanted you to go in the first place.
No, he
So what happened when you come back home?
Well, I used to come every 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. So
Yes.
he was happy. You kept him happy.
I used to come every 2 weeks. And I had trials with the daughter who was 6, who had the sickle cell disease.
Okay.
But fortunately, she's now 37. This one died at 20. But that one, because of the medications that we were able to get in the U.S., she plays football. She's working at Harvest Key now. And she's quite, seems like she will survive, I don't know how long, but she has passed where she had to leave.
Very good. I hope she continues, and go live into some ripe
Yes.
old years, Now, traveling to Belize City on this highway, as against traveling by sea when you went the first time with Heron H. How you see that? And I'm sure you saw the different changes that this road went through, and the road coming from Belize City to this area went through. Maybe we could just do a little bit of comparisons over the years. Now you're talking when you looked at when you were 15. Now we're looking at it now when you were 43, right? What was it like? What was that difference? What was the major difference?
It's a big difference. My husband used to do trucking from here to Belize City.
Okay.
And one of the biggest hindrances was the flooded rivers.
Yeah.
Even this one at Big Falls. You were almost home, but that didn't go down until a week time. So you either cross in a dory to get home, or you waited there. Bladen and Swayze was the same thing. South Stand Creek,
Yes.
Golden Stream, and Deep River. So, but now, since the early 90s, all that has changed because high-level bridges have been built.
Yeah. There were 5 rivers that you had to traverse, right? If I'm
Yes.
not mistaken, when you came by road to this area, there were 5 rivers, and they could be all swollen almost at the same time, if depending on how the rain fell.
Yes.
How the rain fell, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I can recall, because my wife is from southern Belize too, so Monkey River, right? And where the blacks are from, right? And so I can recall that the trouble you had going on these trucks, But the truck that your husband had, they would take passengers and cargo, right?
Yes. The first 3 benches was passengers, and then from there cargo. He had a division.
And people would sit on the benches like it was a bus,
Yes.
right? And sometimes you have to sleep on the road because of the floods, like you're rightly saying, right? So those were some uncertain days, right? When you would travel, all right? The truck brand that was popular was, if I recall correctly, was Bedford. Was it a Bedford truck that you
Yes,
had?
he had a Bedford.
See? And then Bedford truck was very, very popular, and you had these three, like he's saying, these seats at the benches at the front and at the back. And Paul, maybe you could recall some of this traveling, because I'm sure you did some of this traveling in the back of those trucks.
On those seats, it's not only one person on a seat, it's about 5 or 6 persons on one seat. So those 3 seats would occupy about 15 to 16 people. And you had to be friendly to each other because it was a long ride and a very dusty ride to Chief. The road was in dry weather and in rainy weather, like Teacher Murray said, we could spend days on the road, especially when the truck is trapped between Swayze and Golden Stream, or between you go back, it's flooded, you come back, it's flooded. So it has been challenging times, Chief, and praise the Lord now we have overcome that a bit. Yeah.
And better buses, good buses compared to what those trucks used to be.
Yes.
When you sit in those trucks, Ms. Marie, you remember in those trucks, the board was straight across, so there was no backing. You can't lean back. You had to just sit because there was no, like how you have a seat, like how we have the seat and we could go back. There was none of that. It was just a straight board and everybody sat side by side on that straight board. If the truck would break suddenly, tell me about some of those experiences.
Yeah. Sometimes they have mechanical problems, and if there's no way in getting to a mechanic quickly, you stay there until a ride passes. And then no cell phones. So what do you do? And so it was, I can recall my husband would sometimes get home 3 days when he should have been Tuesday night. Friday he's coming in, and all black and greasy because he had mechanical problems on the road.
And that road, because the buses were not, the trucks were not sealed off from the dust.
No.
And the roads were not paved. Yeah. So if something passes you and throws, bathe you with dust, right? And so when you come in, you're a different color. You're the color of the dust, And people will just stop sometime by the river and decide, okay, this is so dusty, let me stop right here by the river and jump in the water and bathe off a little bit and before coming home. You remember that?
Yes.
What I can recall is when it rained, Chief, there was some tarpaulin canvas that they would put down, and it was hot inside. But Chief, there's one thing, Teacher.
Steaming behind the canvas part.
Teacher Maria and many who have been on the road at that time will recall when we got to the gap in the Hummingbird Highway. Somebody have to stay behind the truck to walk with big rock. So if the truck go back way, they put the rock. So it was a timely process going up the gap.
Many trucks, if we look at the gap now, we just go through it in a modern vehicle. But those days, many trucks would roll backwards, right? Sorry, they would roll backwards. So you had people who would, like Paul is rightly saying, when the truck is going up and it stalls because it's too steep, so the truck would stall. And when the truck stalls, so it doesn't roll back down the hill, rocks are placed under the wheels to keep it going, to keep it up, till they can start the engine's cool down, and then we start the engine again, and then try pick up enough steam for continue going up. That's the way I remember it.
Even this hill right here, we didn't call Lindo Hill.
Lindo Hill was
people have gone down. My husband's son, before we got married, Simon Coleman, Wilma's nephew. He died right on this hill because the vehicle gone down back way and he jumped out for put on rock and then the vehicle right over him.
Yes, I can remember a few lives being lost in that way as well. There was a famous one too with the same type of trucks that we are talking about, the same Bedford trucks with the seats in the back and so on. When they went to the boom ferry, I don't know if you recall that, they went to the boom ferry and they ran down, the boom ferry had to go down, and so they ran on the boom ferry, over the ferry, and the truck load of cargo and people just ended up in the river, and several people lost their lives. That was a very sad evening.
Yes.
A very, very sad evening. Yeah. So those were some of the difficulties you had in getting here.
Yes.
And it took hours to get here, you know. Talk about some of the hours that it took to get home from Belize.
It was terrible. For example, when I was at Teachers College, I would come on Z line. The Z line would leave like after classes, around 3 o'clock.
You're talking when we start to get buses now.
Yes, yes. And the road wasn't really paved all over yet.
Yeah.
And I would get here like 11 o'clock at night.
So you leave at 3 o'clock, get here at 11 at night.
At night.
And that was a quick journey, in all honesty, because
Chief, before the time of Z-Line, we don't want to forget history in the past. The Adrian bus service, which was probably the phasing into later on, which was James bus service. And James worked on those buses many years along with Mr. Adrian. And I remember, Chief, sometimes the radiator get hot, so we have to stop there every creek for putting water. But it was very reliable service, and we remain proud of those bus services that took the people to Belize City.
real pioneering days before this road was paved. Right? I could remember coming to Punta Gorda and looking at myself and saying, is this me? Because you're covered from head to toe in dust. Is this really me?
Yes, yes, that's true. I did it countless times, to go and visit my mom in Burrell Boom. And she'd get a ride to wait by Hattieville for me so that then I could. Because when I went to Teachers College, I stayed with her in Burrell Boom so that she could mind the little girl that was sick and had sickle cell anemia. And then I would catch the Mr. Wait bus, so that I go to school in the morning along with the one who was manager for Scotiabank. She was going to Palote because all my girls went to Palote.
Now, we're coming back to you, to your life. At 43, you went to Belize City, you got your associate's degree, you came back. What happened after that?
Well, when I came back, San Isidro School didn't exist anymore.
They had taken down the school
Yes.
from the area where
Yes.
Julian Cho is presently located.
Big Falls School was in, and so I went to do my internship. I did my internship at Big Falls School in Standard 5. And then they started subject teaching. So I became the language arts and social studies teacher for 4, 5, and 6. It was 4 classes. 2 standard 4, 1 standard 5, 1 standard 6. And I taught social studies to all 4 classes and language arts, which meant creative writing and grammar.
Social studies, remind me what the social studies curriculum would be like. Because in social studies, if I remember correctly, it's a teacher about Belize, Belize history, a bit about our country, and I think social studies, unfortunately, has been phased out. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes. But then it was civics, geography, and history. Our present history, which is civics, the government, and all
They
the...
used to teach you those things.
Yes.
But that doesn't happen anymore.
It's not like that. I'm surprised,
Can you recall how and why did we lose that? Because to me, I feel very strongly about the fact that social civics and our history and that sort of thing has been phased out or toned down. Can you recall when that started to happen as a teacher?
Well, it didn't happen during my time because I retired in 2003. And it didn't happen during my time. I noted quite often they asked me to be guest speaker. For example, this year I was guest speaker for the school and I was guest speaker for the village for Independence Day. For the school, it was when they had children's rally, and for the village, it was Independence Day. And when I finished with my speech about the history of independence and tying it with the history of Belize, and then the chairman asked a few questions, and the kids were like,
We don't know what it is.
yeah.
You know?
I was amazed because these are the things that I used to teach.
Yes. And these are the things that every Belizean child should know, how we got where we are today, right? And our constitution and the different things that make us proud Belizeans, right? So let's go back again now. The San Isidro is gone. You started teaching in the school here at Big Falls School. What happened after that?
Well, I taught there from I started teaching there before I went to Teachers College. And then like I said, I did subject teaching because I've been a lay minister for 40 years.
Okay, I didn't know you were a lay minister.
I was the one who had to do confirmation, preparation, and all the different, such things to the children.
You're talking a lay minister for the Catholic Church? Or?
For the Catholic Church. And so I had quite a lot of responsibilities. And whenever, even if the teachers had something, I was the one called upon to lead prayers and to do whatever at any workshop and things like that. But I didn't mind doing it. Like I said, my purpose in becoming a teacher was to serve others. And
Teacher Marie, is that I recall coming to this village for quite a number of funerals, and she had to officiate in her capacity as a lay minister.
As a lay minister.
Even before I was a lay minister, when I was 19, I did my first funeral. And teenagers are afraid of the people. Yes. And I had to do my first, because I was the only teacher in the village. There were no other teachers. And so it was expected that I should do everything that,
Any memory of how it went that you could share with us?
I was like, I wasn't a lay minister. I didn't become a lay minister until 1982.
But you saw yourself through it. That's the main thing.
Yeah. And I did whatever was expected to pray for the sick people. Well, Teacher Marie, you the teach. You must could do it. And I said, you people look at me like if I am Jesus Christ's sister indeed. Not sister in Christ, but, another Jesus Christ. I can't perform miracles, but they would ask me to go on. I had to do my first Esquipulas novena at Celia's grandfather's house. Mm-hmm. I was 18, January the 15th, because the guy who always did it was drunk. And I was called upon to do it.
You got too much to drink, right?
It really achieved far beyond just being a mother, being an educator, but being a leader in her church, and reaching out. When you speak about love, L-O-V, that's it, right there. Love of what she's doing.
Which means that you are very active in your community as well, right? Let's look at some of the activities you do in your community on a regular basis, besides teaching.
Well, besides teaching, I usually go to like I said, pray for the sick. Just last week, it was your aunt, Miss Bibiana, her birthday, her 90th birthday, and I was asked to go and do a communion service for her because that's what she wanted. I want Teacher Marie to do I want communion.
Okay, so Teacher Marie had to go.
So I went, and then I have a problem because of water board. I lost an eye.
As we wrap up our conversation with Marie Aleman, she shares some of her life struggles and how she has maintained a positive attitude despite personal setbacks. We take a break to hear from our partners, the Barry and Shell Belize Limited.
Shell V-Power, with 3 times more cleaning and friction-reducing molecules. Go well. Go Shell.
We are the Barry, offering you great products, good service, and of course, the lowest prices in the entire country. Visit us in Belize City, Belmopan, San Ignacio Cayo, Orange, and now in San Pedro, La Isla Bonita. The Barry. Get more? Be less.
matter what part of the jewel you come from, you that you and me that me. But guess what? All are we the one. See what I mean?
Because of what aboard you lost an eye, how did that happen, if you don't mind talking about it?
I was in the water board for 18 years. I was the chairlady for 15 years and 3 years treasurer. My son-in-law, on my birthday, he came home and he said, and to quote him, he is Guatemalan, "Yo ya no voy a trabajar con ustedes. I will not work with you anymore." And I looked at him and I said, "You forget that I'm not only your boss, I'm your mother-in-law as well." And his response was, "A mí no me importa ni." That was his response. And I'm like, I got so angry. And it was my birthday.
Yeah.
And I have elevated high blood pressure.
You do?
Not exceedingly, but above normal. And I got so angry. Like an hour later, darkness. A vein burst in my eye.
Oh my.
A capillary vein, not a big vein. And so then his wife used to live here with me. They lived here with me because this house is quite big, you know.
Because I can see, and you're just
And
losing
now
a part of it.
Yes. And so she took me down to PG, to BCBI, and they said they couldn't do anything. And then her sister was manager of Scotiabank PG. And so she went to her sister at the bank, and this Roxana, and she said, "But it's late. Tomorrow morning, early, we are going to Belize City." And so the next morning, we went to Belize City early, and Dr. Hager said, "You can't see out of your eye, and I can't see in your eye. There's blood everywhere."
Wow.
So immediately he called Guatemala. He said he has a friend, and he gave me the address, and next day we went to Guatemala. Well, one daughter went with me. The Scotiabank one couldn't go. And they did surgery on both eyes. So I regained sight of one, but couldn't regain the other. 5,000 US.
Wow.
And then he told me to go back in 2 weeks, and I went back. And I went there 1 year every month. And then I went to Merida. And the ophthalmologist there said he couldn't do anything. So I called the one that lives in Chicago. And she made an appointment with the retinologist because it's my retina that was damaged. And I went there, and he said, "Mom, that eye is dead. Stop wasting your money and your time." So that's the story of the eye, the loss of the eye. So I can't drive around as I would like. And that's the same year I bought that truck that you see in the garage.
Okay, so that's
So
happened
I
after you
drive
bought
it.
the job.
I drive it, but I shouldn't. I just drive to church
Yeah.
because the church is right over there.
Okay. So how many years ago that happened?
2011.
Okay, 2011.
So when people call me, I have to depend on. I raised 2 grandchildren. I got one, she was 8 months, and the next one was 2 years. And both are adults now. So the boy lives there with his partner, and the girl lives with me. She's 23 and he's 25. So she drives me around, but she's working right now.
Okay. I need to ask you this now. This, with all the difficulties you have with sight and everything, what's your philosophy on life? What keeps you going?
That mindset of being an asset to others, being of assistance.
Service.
Because at first people tell me, "Teacher Marie, but if you did do God work, why he make that happen to you?" And I said, you know what? These are some of the challenges we face. And if he make things all perfect for me, who knows? Maybe I wouldn't even be here after my husband died.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I, for example, you can see what my Sure it has.
Be a light unto the world. Let your light shine before others that they may see the good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Taking from Matthew chapter 5, verse 16. Yes, I'm familiar.
Unfortunately, this eye recovered fully, so
You can see well out of the one eye.
Yeah.
Okay.
and so I still do service. And for example, tomorrow, I start posadas, where you go from house to house.
You're still a very active person,
Yes.
Teacher Marie.
But somebody has to drive me. Unfortunately, I have a godson who, when my granddaughter is working because she wants to make her own money, I used to give her money because I'm on pension, but she wants to earn her own. So this godson of mine, no worry, godmother, I'll come on my cycle, I'll take you. When I drop you, I go on my cycle home.
Okay. No. You're a pensioner, which means that you have retired from the teaching profession.
Yes.
Lead me up to that point when you retired from teaching itself actively. I don't think you stopped teaching yet, but I mean you retired from the actively teaching.
Yes, in a classroom.
In a classroom.
Well, when I applied to retire, Clement Wade told me, because I've known him a long
That's after how many years of teaching?
38.
38 years of teaching.
And I said, I would like to teach 5 more years, because I had, I've helped a lot of students with high school. And so my daughter was in third farm. And there was this other young man who was also in third farm. You know Don Tino from Santa Cruz, right? Yes, that's right. Well, I raised his son. I gave him a plot to live right over as you come out from my garage. And both of them were in third farm. So I said I'd like to teach another 5 years so that I can cover their expense and send them to UB. And he said, we have to give the young people a break. And so I can't give you 2 or 3 years to teach. You have to take a bigger amount. And so I said, okay then, you're the boss. And so I applied for retirement when I was 55, May. And June I got settled. I got the settlement. I went to Treasury in Belize City, and everything was already there.
So you're getting your pension today. And so I noticed you have a shop here. Is that what do you live off, the shop, or financially beside the pension? How does that work? Tell me.
Maybe you weren't very observant, but I have a lot of malpagos.
Oh, you do? But how would I know that?
I have a list there.
You have a list out there?
They take
I didn't see the list.
They take advantage of me. Well, how you say you must help your falling brother in church, and why you don't want to give me credit? Things like that. And then some of them are my compadre, or some of them are my godchildren, and then when they owe, they walk away. And so I don't put it outside because somebody would come and tear it down. I have it inside.
Okay. So you have a list there of people who did not.
Who owe more than a year.
Okay, more than a year. Well, after a year, then you think they'll come back, won't they?
I'm sure. So I just keep it because initially I was the one who put it. My husband put the bar and the pool room, but I don't like that. But I did it because you get company. You see people who you haven't seen in a while.
So they come and shop here.
Yes. But I'm thinking of closing it now because people take advantage of me.
So that's a good. She has a good spirit. Just as she gives you things on credit, and then come back and pay her. That's not nice.
Yes.
Yeah,
But I
Paul.
closed the bar as soon as my husband died. Because he used to stay open. They didn't have the rules they have now. And he used to stay open till 3, 4 in the morning. And I wouldn't do that. So I closed that and I sold the pool table.
But did he? No, I can remember you telling me that he had the truck with
He
the,
did
with
trucking,
the
but
service.
he overturned.
But that's what I was about to ask. What made him stop the trucking?
He overturned 2 times.
So he stopped the trucking, and he did not go into the bus industry.
No. He went into putting a bar
He went in the
instead.
bar and food.
Because I had the shop already. So then he put that addition and put the bar.
Miss Marie, I just take a glance on the wall there, and I can see a few recognitions that you have received. I'm sure that for the life that you have lived, you may have received many recognitions, right? So, tell me about some of them that you regard very highly and have in mind at all times.
Well, the first one I got, this one, I got it from Minister Fonseca. This one right here. As an outstanding person in education.
Your picture is on that, right?
Yes. Minister.
Specialized.
Yes. And, I didn't expect it. I hold it in high regard. And that was the first outstanding one that I got for education. But here, I don't know why they gave me those on glass. Okay. See them on that bookshelf?
I see them there.
I got one from the management. I think it's in 1988. I was still teaching as an outstanding teacher and an outstanding educator. One of those in glass, I think it's the last one. And then when I retired, I got that bigger glass one. Okay. And then this other glass one, I got it because of an outstanding female in contributing to the community as the water board chair lady. Then I got that one at the top, but that was from my board, from my water board. Big Falls Water Board. But last year, April, all I got was a phone call. Miss Aleman, get all your stuff together, have your financial report, bank statements, because next week we have a new board taking over from you. And I'm like, from Minister Rikena, 1 week notice.
Wow.
And I didn't get any form of recognition.
Wow.
But 2018, I was called by Mr. Ernest Banner, who was in charge of rural water systems from Belmopan, that I was going to go to Trinidad to represent the country of Belize as a outstanding female leader in community development. And so I went to Trinidad. I was the only one from the whole country of Belize.
Nice.
And I have pictures on my phone, but because I didn't have anybody to take picture.
Yeah.
So it's on my phone. And then there is one, you can see it on the wall over there, in front of that big ship. The credit union, Toledo Teachers Credit Union. I'm in credit union from 2001 to date, and I'm the vice president of the board of directors. And I've been in all the committees of the credit union, the credit committee, the supervisory committee, and the board. And they sent me to attend the CCCU meeting on a cruise ship, Carnival Cruise Line, for 1 week, all expenses paid.
Right.
And so I just took a picture in front of the ship.
Right. That's a Meritorious Service Award.
That one, I got that 2019, I think.
That's from the people on
From the
Government of
Governor
Belize.
General.
Meritorious Service Award.
Yes. And then some of the others is from the Toledo Maya Women's Group. And then that one in the far right over there is from Juliancho Technical High School. I was on their board for 13 years. I decided to come out when I lost sight of because I used to drive there. I used to go from classroom to classroom and talk to the students at the end of a semester to boost them up and tell them about my experience. I said, where there's a will, there's a way. You can do it. I did it, you can do it.
Give me more of a message, because I like the positive messages, right?
Yes, so I would talk to them. I said, I don't want to see any of you failing. That's not the way to go. And I would go and do services with them as well, church service. When assembly, that time we used to have like 500 students. Now they have over 1,000. So I was their chairperson for 3 years, from 2005 to 2007. I was chairperson of their board of directors. And then Rotary. Well, Rotary never gave me, and I stopped with them too because of the site.
Yeah.
Because every Thursday we'd have meetings and I had to drive to town.
So you're a Rotarian, active Rotarian?
I was,
Yet?
but I stopped.
You stopped. You had to
Yes.
stop. Okay.
I did it for 5 years.
All right.
Then I was the treasurer for Toledo Health Council. Mr. Alejandro Vernon was the chairman, and I was the treasurer from 2009 up to last year.
So you've had an active life, Miss Marie. And so if I could ask you, what are your vision? What will Miss Marie be doing in the future?
That's what I'm thinking of. I'm going down because I'm 74.
No, we're not going down, Miss Marie. We might go out one day, hopefully not right now, but we're not going down. Where will we head to?
My children tell me, well, the one in Belmopan, she said, Ma, I don't think I could ever step in your shoes. But this one that lives here, the youngest one, Ma, you don't tire them. And all people good for them, no got no thanks. I said, no worry about that, man. I know they look for no recompense. I'm willing to be there to assist when I can. Nobody helped me, but thank God my uncle gave me the start to go to high school. The sisters gave me a push, and I got there.
Yeah.
So, we always should not lose faith in God, because I use him as my guide and my counselor. And that's how I've been able to achieve what I have achieved up to this point.
Very good, Miss Marie.
And I hope to continue.
Yeah. So your message to other people will be keep moving forward at all times, right?
Moving, never look back at what went by. Always look forward and see how you can improve it.
Learn from what happened.
Yes, you learn from your mistakes and you make sure it doesn't happen again. And like I said before, where there's a will, there's a way.
All right, that's a good way for us to wrap up our presentation or being here with you this evening. With that positive thought, where there's a will, there's a way. It's all in the mind. If the mind tells you you can do it, then you can do it, because your will is in your mind, right? And so where there's a will, there's a way. That's very, very important for us to remember. Paul, anything from you as we close out?
Well, Chief, this is a very precious moment in my life, an experience coming to Teacher Marie, to talk to her, somebody I've known for practically 50 years. But what I admire most is that her perseverance and belief in the Creator, the Lord. I recall when her husband died, I was very close to them. It wasn't a very experience we don't even want to talk about, Chief, but she stood in there as a mother, as a female, as a leader in the rural communities. She remains a role model, not only to young girls, but to young boys and so on. And I guess that families look up to her, not only in Big Falls, but the entire Toledo district, and those who know her in other districts will always remember Teacher Marie for her being what you call a true Belizean and loving patriot.
Thank you so much, Paul. And Teacher Marie, I look at your wall and I see a sign that says, with God, all things are possible. And that is so true. With God, all things are possible. Because you know why, Teacher Marie? God is love. Right?
Yes, indeed.
And He wants us to love ourselves and love our neighbors as we love ourselves. And that's what you have done. You have found the love for yourself, and you have spread that love to your neighbors, right? You would have expected to receive. But love is also a choice that we all make.
It's a choice.
Right? It's a choice, right? You agree with me? It's a choice?
Yes, it's a choice. Because if you don't have the choice, you won't do it.
Exactly. And so that's why we say, Belize and beyond, thanks for choosing love. Belize Watch. Knowledge of the past, impacting the present, building the future.
Celebration time. It don't matter what part of the jewel you come from. You that you